Okay, it's me again, and I am going to create a video here that discusses and gives examples of um, advanced functions, logical functions, nested functions, lookup functions, and stuff of that nature. So let's get started. I will start by pulling up an assignment that is posted for you guys in week six. In week six, you'll notice the functions that we're going to be using are if s, switch, sum if, average if, count if, sum if s, average if s, count if s, max if s, min if s, and, or, and not. And then we're also going to be talking about some other stuff that are, uh, again, the same type of functions. But we are also going to be doing lookup functions, VLOOKUP, and we will be doing a future value and a PMT function as well. Okay. We're going to start off by just talking about how we go about using the function dialog box. This box right here, you'll see a little fx. In math, that's function of x, but in here it's insert function. If I click that, it gives you a list of all functions that are available. What's really cool about this is that it has a boatload of functions built in, literally from A to Z. It has statistical function, financial functions, date, time, some math and trig, database, all kinds of logical functions. If I go here, you'll see that there's if. If you keep looking, there's your if s, and so on. If you look at this, when I click that if s, down here, it shows what the function looks like. And right here, checks whether one or more conditions are met and returns a value corresponding to the first true condition. Okay, so if I wanted to use that, I would be able to just say okay, and then it gives us the dialog box. So test one, and so on and so on and so on. So let's look at how we could use this. First off, I'm going to start by doing an if function just to get you in the logical function realm. And all functions begin with an equal sign. Let me zoom in here so we can see better. Hit escape. There we go. All functions begin with an equal sign, and then the name of the function and a parentheses. If you notice right below, it's showing where we're at in the function. All if functions have a test, a false or a true and a false. You'll notice that a comma separates each argument of a function. So logical test, whatever that test is, comma, what do you do if it's true, comma, what do you do if it's false? Okay. So the very first thing I would do is I'm going to create a calculator for a future value of, say, retirement plan. Okay. I'm going to just say income, and I'm going to throw 100,000 in there just to start things off. I'm going to format things properly, make sure that we use currency when it's currency. Otherwise, if you pay me in marbles, I wouldn't be happy. Investment amount. My dad always said save 10% of everything you make. So I'm going to say equals this divided by 12 times 0.10. Okay. And maybe this ends up changing. We don't know. Order of operations, same as in math. Make sure that we're doing this first and then multiplying by 0.10. It might be a different number. It might not. So I'm paying in this much per month. Well, I'm not. Person that makes 100,000 a year is. Okay. So there's that initial value. Let's say you have a current IRA or lump sum. Okay. If I had a current IRA, let's say it had 250,000 in it. Okay. Again, we're looking at currency. By the way, there's a difference between currency and this button here. If I click this button, that's accounting format. So it puts the dollar sign all the way to the left. By going to currency, the dollar sign goes right next to the value. Sorry about the cough. Allergies are getting at me. Okay. Now, right here, I'm going to put current age, and I'm going to put my current age, 51, and then I'm going to desired retirement age. So I'm going to say 71. So I got 20 years left. Okay. Now, here we're going to say future value of investment. Okay. And we're going to get back to the if function. I'm going to do the future value first, and then we can do the if or if s and so on. Okay. So future value of investment. Future value, if I don't know what the function is, I can go here, and right here at the top, I can type in what I'm trying to do. I want to calculate future value. And I can click on these and read what they do. I'm going to choose this one. It makes sense. Returns the future value of an investment based on periodic constant payments and a constant interest rate. Okay. And I select this. I don't have a current interest rate. I didn't add that in here. So I'm going to actually use this cell. And my number of payments is going to be this minus this, right? But then because it's a monthly payment, not annual, I'm going to take that 20 and multiply that by 12. My payment amount, I don't have this much in there, so I'm going to start negative, and I'm going to select the amount that I'm paying in per month. Okay. My present value, notice here it's giving me a value of 200,000. Okay. My present value, if I add that in, notice how it went negative. We need that to show up here as a negative 2. Okay. Now all of a sudden we're at 450,000. Okay. B4 doesn't have an interest rate yet, but we're going to have it in a second. And then this argument is, if it's not bold-faced, it's not required. Okay. But is a value representing time of payment. Payment at the beginning of the period equals 1, payment at the end of the period equals 0, or omitted. I'm just going to leave it blank. Okay. And I'm going to say interest rate. And we're going to create a risk column, okay, or a risk cell. Oh, by the way, naming cells is a good way to handle things. If I actually select this cell, click in this name box up here, and type in risk, that way I can use the word risk in my formula. If I put retirement age in here, if I were to put current age in here, okay. If I was to say int rate here, if I was to say int value, my monthly payment into it, my income. Naming these will come in handy in the future, just so you guys know. So you might want to name yourselves. And then future value of investment there. Okay. So everything's named. You name the cells that have the values, not the cells that have the titles. Okay. So this cell is risk. And I'm going to do something else that I hadn't planned on doing, but it's a neat little tool and I wanted to share it with you. If I click data and I go to data validation, I can select it. And I want to do this from a list. In my source, I could have low, moderate, high. Say okay. Now, someone can select a value. Okay. If I go back into data validation and I look at this, there's an input message. I can say select a risk level. And an error, what happens if there was an error? Select a risk level. An error would occur if somebody tried to type something in that didn't exist, because you can still type here, but if I hit enter, this value, so select this, that's fine. I'm going to retry. I'm going to cancel. I'm going to click back in here, and I'm just going to select low. Okay. Now, here's where things come in handy. My interest rate I can base off of my low, medium, or high. I can do just a standard if, or I can do a standard if else. Okay. If I was to say equals if, parenthesis, this equals the word low, so in caps, or not in caps, in quotes. Okay. If it does, then I want it to be 0.10. Actually, let's go 0.06. 6%. Otherwise, I have to test to see if it equals moderate. If, parenthesis, this is a nested if. I've got an if, now I've got another if that I'm building in. I've got a test, I have a true, I have a false. The whole if is a false. If this cell right here equals moderate, unquote, then 0.10. Otherwise, if it doesn't equal one of those two, it must equal high. So I'm going to say 0.1345. I don't know. Okay. So there's that. I close that parenthesis. I close that parenthesis. Number of opening parentheses has to equal the number of closing parentheses. So I have a test. I have a true for that first test. I have a false for that first test. In here, I have a test. I have a true. I have a false. Okay. This is not the simplest nested function, but it works. Okay. So I'm going to hit enter. And I'm going to enlarge this. I've got something else wrong. Oh, I could tell you what in a second. This is APR, okay, annual percentage rate. And the way I set it up was wrong. I'm going to move the decimal places out just in case. If I was to choose moderate, you can see that it changes. If I was to choose high, you can see how it changes. I'm going to go back into my function dialog box here. And right here, my rate has to be divided by 12. I don't get that percentage per month. I get that percentage per year. Okay. So I'm going to hit OK. There. So at a high risk, I could still have $4,632,894 to retire on in 20 years. If I go to moderate, there's a big difference. If I go to low, there's a big difference. Okay. So you can see I created a calculator really quick that could help me determine different things. And I'm going to show you one thing that you can do. And this cell right here, if I want to change that cell to a very specific number, I can use something called goal seek. And I can't remember, is it in formulas? It's been a while since I've used it, but I want to show it to you anyway. Consolidate what if. It's under what if. Okay, so it's under data, what if analysis, goal seek. I want to set that cell to 3 million by changing this cell. I click OK. By changing this cell, set cell B5 to there, to this. Cell must contain a value. Oh, that's a function. That's a formula, so I can't use that cell. I should be able to, but it's not going to let me. Well, let me do it this way. 833.33. Okay. I'm still going to show it to you because it's actually really cool. What if analysis, goal seek? I want to set this cell to, or not that cell. I want to set this cell to 1, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3 by changing this cell. But that's not part of the function. Bear with me. I have to go back into this function. Do I have to go back into the function? I do have to go back into the function. Because right now my payment is in B2. I want it to be in this cell. So I'm going to change this there. Now, oh, what did I do? C2. It's because it has to be negative. There. Okay. So there. Now I'm going to try this one last time just to show you that it does work. I can do goal seek. I can set that cell by changing a different cell. So I want to set B5 to 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3 by changing this. And I click OK. Now you can see that I would have to invest $4,701.85 per month to hit 3 million in that period of time. Okay, based on that lower interest rate because of the selected risk. Okay, I'm going to Control Z to get back to using my B2 cell, and I can delete that. That was just a test to show you goal seek because it's kind of cool. So anyway, I have this calculator that I created to calculate my retirement income based on risk level. If I wanted to, right here, I could have done that a little differently. I'm going to do it down here just as a second if-else. I can type the function in if I know what it is, and then I can go to the dialog box. So I started typing it. I can click that FX button, and I want to test this, okay? And if interest rate is, actually, let's do this. Not interest rate. We're doing this. If this cell low, then what do I want to do? I want to take 0.06. Otherwise, if this is equals moderate, it has to be quotes and it has to be proper capitalizations. If that equals moderate, if that's 0.10, I forgot the equals low. Okay. And then the logical test for this last one is, does this cell equal high? Okay. Oh, forgot the quotes. Okay. And if it does, then it gives me an option for one more true, which was 0.15235. I don't know what I put in there. Doesn't really matter. If I click OK, now it does the same thing as this, but I didn't have to nest the function. It's all one function. Okay. If I change this, you can see that it works the same, but it's if s, because I can specify what happens if this is true, what happens if this is true, what happens when this is true. That can come in handy because nested functions that get long become very complex and hard to follow. So sometimes it's easier to use a function like this. Okay. If I said equals average ABG, um, and learn how to spell. Okay, so I got average if s. I'm going to go to the dialog box, and I have average range. What range do I want to take the average of? And what is the criteria? Okay, is the range of cells you want to be evaluated for a particular condition. Okay, so what range am I doing? What range am I, is the range of cells you want evaluated for a particular condition? And then what is that condition? And then you can do another range, and what is the condition? Another range, and what is the condition? Okay. Operates pretty much the same way as the if s. Okay, because the only difference is you're specifying what that is. Now, one thing I didn't point out yet is that, let's say, because there's three different things for each of these tests, you got an average range. What are we averaging? What range am I averaging? And what's the criteria? Now, if I click this help on this function, I did click, yeah, okay. It'll take me out to Microsoft's site, and it will give you examples and explain it and everything else. Okay. So you can see that we're taking B2 to B5. Here we're the range that we're searching for the criteria is B2 to B5. And if it's greater than 70, B2 to B5, greater or less than 90, and so on. Okay. And it gives good examples and stuff. That's why I'm not going really in depth on this function, is because I wanted to use this function to show you that the help menu is there. And it's really easy to use in so many ways. And it's very descriptive. Okay. So try using that. Okay. So I'm going to close that. Cancel that, because if s and stuff like that don't really fly on this one. Let me go back to our assignment. Now, what we didn't do is I could have based that risk level off of my age or the number of years I have to retire. Okay. So I might or might not do that. But I'm trying to think if I want to do that. Let's do it a different way. Because I'm trying to think of a lookup function. I'm going to add a new sheet, and I'm going to call this rates. I'm going to call it sheet rates too. Okay. I'm going to name this. I'm going to name this whole range rates. So now I can use that whole range. I'm going to just make a nice little table. Home, I want to merge and center that. I want how do I want to do this? Risk level, and rate. Okay. And I'm going to go low, medium, high, but this has to be in alphabetical order. I can't just put low, medium, high, which makes it a little more difficult to handle in some ways because mentally we think about things in that realm of low, medium, high, but in alphabetical, high comes before high would be the top one, right? So we could do it by risk level being a value. Let's do it this way. We'll do high, low, HIJKL, and medium. Okay. And here I'm going to say 0.15235. I don't really care. It's just an example, 0.06, 0.10. Okay. And this right here, even though I think I named this rates, no, I didn't. I named this rates. No, I didn't. What did I name rates? That whole area. I don't want that whole area. If I name something and I don't like how it looks, I can go to, is it under data formulas, I think, name manager. So formulas, name manager. And I look for rates. And instead of this range here, I'm going to say that it's actually this. Okay. I'm going to hit a check mark to save it. Hit close. So now if I type in rates, you can see what it selects from. Okay. So instead of doing it based off of, instead of doing this based off of this if function, I could use a lookup function, which is much easier. I could say equals lookup, parenthesis, and I'm going to click here. Okay. I don't need two equals in there. How do I get that? Cancel. Equals lookup, parenthesis. I am having a hard time typing. I do not know why. Okay. There. Equals lookup, parenthesis. I click this. I can look up value, vector, and all that stuff, or I could just look up something in an array. Lookup in this simple format works well because it works well if you have only two columns. You always compare to the first column and you return from the second column. If I use a VLOOKUP instead of a regular lookup, I'm going to type that in real quick. Cancel. I'm going to cancel. I'm going to say equals VLOOKUP, parenthesis. I'm going to go to my dialog box. In a VLOOKUP, I can specify what column I'm returning my value from. Okay, so I look up what value, what table or array am I looking it up in, and what column number am I returning the value from. My lookup value is this, whatever someone selects there, comma, or not comma, I don't need comma because I've got boxes. We're looking it up in the column or the table called rates that we set, and we're returning from column 2. Okay. If I click OK, it's serving the same function that we had. If you notice, by the way, I always test to make sure everything's working right. So if you look, one of the things about this is this has to be in ascending order. The first column has to be in ascending order. Then it returns the value from here. Okay. Or returns the value from the column you're telling it to return the value from. So we're doing the exact same thing we were, just we're using a lookup instead of a nested if. I prefer lookups because look at the column, look at that function. It's just easy. I'm looking something up. What am I looking up? I'm looking up risk, which is this cell. I'm looking it up in rates, which happens to be on the rates table. We name that range. And I'm returning from column 2 of that range. Okay. So there's that. So far we covered, let's see, let me go back to this. We did look at ifs. We looked at if-s. We looked at the idea of max if or max if-s and stuff like that. They're going to operate the same way where you set a criteria. I want the minimum value based on a certain criteria for a maybe I want the minimum value of a set of dates, between a set of dates or what have you. And, or, and not, that comes in really handy with if. If I wanted to do equals if, parenthesis, I'm going to say if this is greater than 50, and I could say or, parenthesis, so I'm going to nest this in here, comma, what's my second logical argument? Or this is less than 70, okay? Close that. I'm done with that part of the function. So if either of these is true, because I said or, so this or this is true, comma, what happens if either of those are true? I'm just testing something, so I'm going to put the word true. Otherwise, I'm going to put the, I got to put that in quotes. Otherwise, I'm just going to put the word false in the cell. Okay, close it. Now, I could use and there as well. So and or are great for adding logical functions to a if function. Okay, so if I need a choice, this is the way to handle that. If I hit enter right now, one of them is true. Which one is true? I said current age is greater than 51. That's true. Is it less than 70? No. So what if I was to change this to, we said greater than 50. What if I said this was 49? And now both of those are false. But if I change this, because I said less than 70, if I change this to 69, notice how it's true now. Okay, so that's just a way of using ors and ands in functions. Okay, let's see, what else do we have? Let me go back here. Use the sum if function. Sum if and average if and count if is just a way of counting only cells that contain something. So I'm going to add a new sheet just to test this for you. I can say equals count if. Well, actually, let's do something. A, B, C, A, C, B. I'm going to copy this. Control C, Control V, Control V. So A's, B's, C's equals count if, parenthesis, count if this range. What's the criteria? I'm going to say C. No, A, sorry. Okay. So there's 6 A's. And I'm going to say equals count if, parenthesis, this range, comma, quote B, unquote, close parentheses, hit enter. So right now there's 6 B's. And then I can say equals count if, parenthesis, this range, comma, quote C, unquote, close parentheses. So there's 6 of each right now. How do I know if this is correct? I test it. Okay? I could change a B to a C if I want to. And you'll notice that they're working. Okay? Average works the exact same way, but of course you would be averaging or summing numbers. So if I said 1, 2, 3, 1, 5, 4, 9, 7, 6, 3, or 2, 3, 2, 5, 7, 9, 10, 15, and 0. And I'm going to actually call this AVG if AVG if. So that range is average if. So I can say equals average if. What's my range? I can say AV. Okay, there. That's my range, comma. What's my criteria? My criteria is going to be if it's greater than 7. What's my average range? Well, this is the range I'm actually averaging. Hit enter. Trying to take the formula. First character is not. Oh, I got to put a. Wait a second. It doesn't seem right. Quote, unquote. Oh, okay. I guess you have to put it in quotes. That made no sense to me. So if it's greater than 7, we're averaging it. Okay. And sum if works the same way. If I say equals sum if, parenthesis, and I'm summing this range if, quote, less than 6, and comma, oh, forgot my quote, comma, and what's my sum range? I'm summing this if it's less than 6. Close parentheses, hit enter. So the total will be 28. Okay. So that's how sum if, average if, count if, that's how those work. Hopefully that helps you understand those a little bit. So now max if s and all that stuff, max if, all that good stuff. I'm going to let you look those up because I can't go over every one of these in the period of time. So we just did average if, switch, blah, blah, blah. We did if and function, and we did the or, if with or function. Combining switch and count if functions. Count the number of trading days for each week using switch to label the days and count if to tally them. Okay. And we did a VLOOKUP. We did a future value. We didn't do a payment function. Payment works a lot like future value. I'm going to let you guys look that up and use the help menu for that. I think there's a lot more value in using that help menu than a lot of people allow or would explain. So because I'm explaining how functions work, they have different arguments. I'm showing you how the function dialog box works. I showed you how the help file works. I don't think it does justice to have you do everything that I do and follow along as much as it does to use all of the tools at your disposal, including that help menu. So I'm going to let you do those. The one that I was going to do, though, is switch, okay, because I want to label days. So I'm going to move this back over. And I'm going to type equals switch. Well, actually, let me get dates. Equals today. There. Equals equals this plus 7. Well, not that. Equals this plus 1. There. Okay. So we have dates. Okay. And, well, that didn't do what I wanted it to do. There we go. That did what I wanted it to do. So if I say equals switch, parenthesis, now I'm going to go to my function dialog box. And I want to evaluate and determine what day of the week that is and so on. I happen to know that this is Wednesday. So if I was to say switch this cell, comma, not that, that, and say value is going to be, result would be let's just see what happens. You know what? I forgot how to do this. We're going to use the help menu in a second, I think. Okay. Let's just see what happens. No, it named them all Wednesday, so that's what I wanted it to do. So equal switch, parenthesis, go to the dialog box, click the help on this function. Result Monday. So I want a single cell, switch to match, blah, 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 return the value. If there's a match, return if there's no match. Value to switch, in this case, weekday A2 equals 2. Okay. What value do you want to match? In this case, it's 1, 2, and 3. So I'm saying for 1, 2, 3. So I want to switch weekday A2. So I'm saying A2 is going to be Sunday. No, 1, Sunday. 2, Monday. 3, Tuesday. 4, no match. Okay. Here's the thing. I don't know why you would do this necessarily. But the idea is that you would be able to do that. Okay. To test it, you could do this. Okay. So I'm going to say C. Control C. You can copy it and paste it in. So I'm going to move this over. I'm going to hit cancel. I'm going to paste this thing in. Right now, there's not a 1, 2, or 3 or anything like that. So how do we handle that? Well, if you don't know that, well, let me actually show you something that makes sense as well. I'm going to use this And I want to show you guys something. My spelling is absolutely terrible today. Create a date value, make sure you have it, blah, blah, blah. So weekday, if you look here, I only want one weekday. I don't need more than one. Explanation, weekday and A1 returns a number from 1 to 7 based on the day of the week. If you look, they actually use a function called weekday. Okay, so if I say equals weekday of this cell, that's the fourth day of the week starting on a Sunday, and you can see that it finds that. Okay, now if I was to use a switch case statement, or not switch case is programming. I'm thinking about programming all of a sudden. If I was to go back to our instruction, or not our instruction set, our, where did it go? If I was to go back to our ChatGPT, I can look at it and I can say equals switch. Notice how I'm saying switch weekday. Control C. Based on the value, what am I switching it to? Okay. So if I was to change this to this, and it's not A1, I'm switching this. Okay. So so if it's a 1, it's a Sunday. If it's a 2, it's a blah, 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 blah. I hit enter. There's my day of the week. Copy it down. Okay. So now that's how that works. Okay. I'm saying, what day of the week is that? That returns a number, a numerical number, 1 through 7. So if it is a 1, it's Sunday. If it's a 2, it's Monday. If it's a 3, it's Tuesday. If it's a 4, it's Wednesday, and so on. If I wanted to show just weekday dates, one of the things I could do is manipulate this. So if it's not a Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, that it would just error out, give me a message. Okay. So that's the switch statement. And that's also an example of number 1, how do you use the help menu? Number 2, ChatGPT, you hear a lot of really bad things about. As far as, it's cheating, it's all these things. It's cheating to use it and treat it like it's your own work. But it's not cheating to come out here and say, okay, I want to do this. So my question was determine the day of the week using switch statement in Excel. It's basic. I didn't give it cell numbers and stuff like that. It's basic. And then it gives you a definition of what it's doing, and it's giving you the values. Now, if you pay attention, that's cell A1. Remember I said I'm not dealing with cell A1, I'm dealing with I2. So I would have to understand that has to be changed to I2. It's not cheating if you use it as a resource, just like a help file that actually you have to read and understand. Okay. So I wanted to show you that because that's just another resource that we have to complete things. So I hope that helps on that. I'm going to close that. I'm going to pull the instructions back over. So we did the switch. I showed you the sums and stuff like that. And I'm going to let you figure out payment function. We did lookup, and we talked about what a nested function looks like. We nested 2 ifs together, but we also nested an OR function with an if. And also think about it. You can nest any functions together. Okay. If you wanted to, you could actually nest a switch inside of an if. You could nest an if inside of a switch. You could put a sum if inside of an if, or you could put an if inside of a sum if. It's unlimited. Okay. So hopefully this helps you make it through your assignments and so on. The not function is really cool because you can actually say if, and your test could be this cell not. Okay. So you could actually set something to see if it's not equal to something else. Okay. I think that's it. Hopefully this helps. Have a good day. Stop sharing that. Go back to my Chrome. Close that. Don't save. There we go. End stream. End.